live and direct from the Golden State. It's intelligent talk media, The Denise Gary Show. Now, here's Denise Gary.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Denise Gary Show. I can't tell you how disappointed I am that we have in the United States Senate a majority, a Republican majority, and they couldn't seem to get across the line the president's national emergency declaration. Let me just remind all of you that there have been 57 national emergency declarations, 57 by numerous presidents in the last century and this century. 27 have expired. 27 out of the 57 have expired. 32 are still in effect. 32 national emergency declarations are still in effect, but the Republicans, of which we have a majority, couldn't get it across the line today. And gosh, we got to go after those people. I want to give you some background information. For those of you that are wanting to know a couple of the names, I was able to get a couple of them before we came into the show today. Pat Toomey. Pat Toomey is a Republican from Pennsylvania. Tom Tillis. What state is he from? Not sure, but he's not from the state of California as far as I know, so I'm not going to worry about him. Do you happen to know where Pat Toomey is from? Or excuse me, Tom Tillis, Tillis. Check it out and let me know. Florida, okay. Is it Florida?
Oh, no, I'm sorry, North Carolina.
North Carolina. So Tom Tillis, North Carolina, and Pat Toomey from Pennsylvania. These two Republicans. It's my understanding that Mitt Romney, Lamar Alexander, Lisa Murkowski, Susan Collins, prior to the vote today, these GOP senators had said that they planned to vote for the resolution to overturn President Trump's national emergency. So anyway, Rand Paul, Lisa Murkowski, Susan Collins, Tom Tillis, and Pat Toomey, Republicans who passed a resolution to overturn President Trump's national emergency declaration. It was a vote of 59 to 41. That's incredible. 59 senators voted against the President of the United States today. And again, we've had 57 national emergency declarations declared, of which 32 are still in effect. Let's talk about, I want to share something with you with respect to former President Obama. Obama has said when he was president back in 2014, the former president of the United States stated, quote, "We've got a humanitarian crisis at the border." This was 2014. I pulled up this article. It's from PBS, Public Broadcasting Service. You know, they do a news show. And in this particular article that was published on June 30th, 2014, okay? So 5 years ago, June 30th, 2014, PBS NewsHour published an article talking about how Obama is asking, quote, to increase penalties for persons who smuggle immigrants who are vulnerable, such as children. Obama went on to say, this is a humanitarian crisis on the border. And Obama asked Congress for emergency money that, among other things, he could conduct, quote, an aggressive deterrent strategy focused on the removal and repatriation of recent border crossings or crossers, end quote. Quote, this includes for fulfilling our legal and moral obligation to make sure we appropriately care for unaccompanied children who are apprehended while taking aggressive steps to surge resources to our southwest border to deter both adults and children from this dangerous journey, end quote. That is former President Obama in 2014. New York Times, the New York Times, July 8th, a month, well, not even a month later, about 9 days later, Obama, reportedly in the New York Times, asked for $3.7 billion more and he asked for it that it be done quickly, to confront a surge of young migrants from Central America crossing the border into Texas, calling it, quote unquote, to the New York Times, an urgent humanitarian situation, end quote. The president said he needed the money to set up new detention facilities. Somebody needs to tell the Democrats and the independents of the United States of America, tell them Obama was the one that built those detention facilities. The detention facilities that have chain link fence from the top, from the ceiling to the floors. Yes, he built those room dividers in those detention facilities because he thought there's got to be detention centers, so there's got to be aerial surveillance. He was using drones. He wanted more money to hire immigration judges. He wanted more money for Border Patrol agents to respond to the flood of 52,000 children. This is all in the New York Times during President Obama's administration. If you're upset about illegal immigration, call a Democrat. Remind them their president said, I want money. I want $3.7 million and I want it now. He said, get it to me quickly for detention facilities, aerial surveillance, immigration judges. I want these people sent back that are coming up from Central America and Mexico. I thought it was interesting that in doing research for this, I found this particular clip, excellent video, on Obama and what he said in 2014. I believe it was 2014, 2015. There might be snippets from 2015, but I believe all this was said in 2014. And what President Trump has been saying. Why don't you listen to their words? They're saying, in effect, the same thing, only President Trump is saying it better and with more heart. Because one thing we know for sure is President Trump seems to be far more compassionate and says things with more heart than Obama ever did or could. So listen to this clip. Thank you.
We now have an actual humanitarian crisis on the border that only underscores the need to drop the politics and fix our immigration system once and for all.
This is a humanitarian crisis, a crisis of the heart and a crisis of the soul.
In recent weeks, we've seen a surge of unaccompanied children arrive at the border, brought here and to other countries by smugglers and traffickers. The journey is unbelievably dangerous for these kids.
Child smugglers exploit the loopholes and they gain illegal entry into the United States, putting countless children in danger on the perilous trek to the United States. They come up through Mexico.
Protecting public safety and deporting dangerous criminals has been and will remain the top priority.
We will begin removing the more than 2 million criminal illegal immigrants from the country.
But we are going to refocus our efforts where we can to make sure we do what it takes to keep our border secure.
We want to secure our border.
Unbelievable, isn't it? The Democrats and Rhino Republicans. And I was so sorry to see that Mitt Romney would not stand with the President of the United States. I know that he's been antagonistic. But even Obama said back on PBS NewsHour on June 30th, 2014, even Obama said, and I quote, "We have to fulfill our legal and moral obligation to make sure we appropriately care for unaccompanied children who are apprehended, means arrested, while taking aggressive steps to surge resources, put that money down there on the southwest border to deter these people from making a dangerous journey, increase capacity for law enforcement and removal proceedings, and quickly return unlawful migrants to their home countries. Obama wrote that. You can look it up for yourself. You don't have to take my word for it. PBS NewsHour. Obama seeks more power to send unaccompanied children back across the border. Of course, it included adults. June 30th, 2014 at 1:05 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. And you just saw the president really saying to the American people what another president said, but all hell broke loose when President Trump has said it. But would you agree with me, Robert? I mean, now you've seen that clip. You put it up there on the show. Wouldn't you concur that the president seemed to even say it with a greater depth of feeling and understanding? Did you pick up on that?
I mean, personally, what I like to go back to is that Trump has always said, "I'm only doing what you all have said before, that you wanted to protect the border." Even your own president said he wanted to protect the border,
and he's telling the truth. And the president is telling the truth.
And it seemed funny to me that they were saying the exact same thing. It's just one was Obama and one was Trump.
You notice that, ladies and gentlemen? It's incredible. And I want you to look at this racist, this bigot that's sitting in the United States Congress in the House of Representatives. Her name is Representative Ilhan Omar, and she calls the President of the United States a person who is not even a human being. She makes the point that he is not human. Obama is human, but President Trump is not. And I want to talk about that after you hear this clip, because that's the kind of verbiage that people have used in anti-Semitic attacks against Jews and Christians. Muslims have used those kinds of words. Nazis have used those kinds of words. People that are anti-Semitic, Nazis and Islamists, have used those kinds of words to dehumanize other people in order to make it more comfortable to harass them, to persecute them, to bully them, and in the end, ultimately kill them, which of course we see Christians and Jews murdered in the Muslim world, in other parts of the world where there's anti-Semitism and anti-Christian bigotry. But we certainly see it all over the Middle East. I want you to listen to this clip. Representative Omar is in the halls of Congress when she calls the President of the United States not a human.
Quick question. Can you set the record straight when it comes to the Politico interview? I just want to get your side of the story. Do you believe that Trump and Obama are the same, just different when it comes to their policies? We understand that you refute this Politico story. Could you just set the record straight so we get your side of it? Do you think that President Obama is the same as President Trump?
Absolutely not. That is silly to even think and equate the two. One is human, the other is...
Is it true that you just think that he's more polished than Trump?
So did she say that twice? He's not human twice? Just once. Okay. So yes, I do look for these clips and I do find them, but it's usually late at night, the night before, or a couple days before. By the time Robert and I get to it, and we did get to this segment yesterday, and so anyway, so you notice there, it's like, oh, how dare you suggest that they're the same, and yet you just heard the clips where Obama is saying the things that Trump is saying the things that Obama said. How Trump has been telling the truth. that it's been an emergency, it's been a humanitarian crisis. Obama and Trump, both presidents have said we have a humanitarian crisis at the border. James Inhofe, a Republican who represents Oklahoma in the United States Senate, he's the chairman of the Armed Services Committee, he said that he was going to support the president in his national emergency declaration. Because why? Why is he going to support it? I hope you write down some of these talking points so you can Facebook them out, so you can Instagram them out, so you can let your friends know that are Democrats and independents. So James Inhofe states, I'm voting to support the president this week on the National Emergency Declaration because in January, Customs and Border Patrol officers seized 254 pounds of fentanyl and nearly 395 pounds of methamphetamines at a port of entry on our southern border. Obama, back when he was president, he was aware that the National Guard, of which Gavin Newsom has pulled back troops. He's pulled troops away from the southern border. But even Obama, part of the reason why he said it was a humanitarian crisis, because he was aware, the former president and his people were aware of the tremendous amount of fentanyl and methamphetamines, heroin, and other hard drugs were coming into the United States of America. According to one report, citing an internal memo by the Department of Homeland Security, that 254 pounds of fentanyl was enough to kill 57 million Americans. That was enough to kill, wait for it, 57 million Americans. We've got thousands of Americans dying every year from drug overdose. This president, with his whole heart, has said, we have a humanitarian crisis. We have children that are being used as props by MS-13 gang members, by cartels, by illegal immigrants that are using them, that have kidnapped them and are using them to get across the border. We have people bringing drugs that will kill tens of thousands of Americans. We have people coming across the border that are going to further jam up and create bumper-to-bumper traffic crises every day on our freeways and highways in California. Isn't it? I mean, when you get on the freeway today, things are bad enough. It takes forever to get from point A to point B. Well, when you let in over 1 million illegals come into the country on top of the million legal, because we're such a generous, wonderful country, that we invite people all over the world to come here legally. So when you consider that we only have just so many resources in each and every state and so many taxpayers and so many taxes coming in, overwhelming the system. James Inhofe said, Border Patrol agents arrested several criminals trying to enter or re-enter the United States in 1 week period earlier this year. He just looking at the human smuggling, the human trafficking, the drug trafficking, Islamists, drug cartels, MS-13, illegal immigrants who oftentimes get involved in identity fraud. It's overwhelming. And I think that those rhino Republicans, Mitt Romney, Pat Toomey, Rand Paul, Lisa Murkowski, Susan Collins, and Tom Tillis, I hope that you'll tweet them all and you'll say, how could you not, in light of the number of people that die every year in the United States of America from criminal activity by illegal immigrants, and because of the drugs and because of the human smuggling, how could you not vote with the President of the United States of America? Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to the Denise Scary Show daily, 5 p.m. on Facebook, on my YouTube channel, The Denise Scary Show, on iTunes and SoundCloud, and Talk America Live Internet Radio every day. We'll be right back after break.
I want to tell you about a place I love to go. Frugatti's Italian Restaurant. Very few locations here provide seating outside in front of a fabulous water fountain with an atmosphere that is reminiscent to me of eating outdoors in Venice. This is real Italian food by real Italians. And what makes it even more so is owner Ralph Frugoletti, who nearly a quarter century ago brought a wood fire oven from Milan, Italy to make, like his mother, fresh homemade bread and pizzas. Moreover, Frugatti's Restaurant offers you not only the very best in Southern Italian cooking, even importing the finest ingredients for authentic Italian food, including a fitness menu. After all, Ralph has represented the United States and Italy, competing in the Master Championship Games. He knows all the right food for good fitness, so check out the menu. After today's broadcast, run over to Frugatti's Italian Restaurant and Catering at 600 Coffee Road here in Bakersfield. And after a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday service, stop into Frugatti's for a great lunch. I'll see you there, and tell Mr. Ralph Frugoletti that Denise sent you. Salute. Buon appetito.
Ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to legal matters, contact Barb Reynolds. She is a contract paralegal to lawyers, and she will take good care of you. Moreover, she is a Kern County legal document assistant to pro per litigants. She has 47 years of paralegal experience, and for over 30 years has been an educator in the field of law and paralegal work. If you need help handling your adoption, bankruptcy, civil suit, divorce, debt consolidation, evictions, immigration, or attorney referrals, contact Barb Reynolds if you want to win your case. Call Tehachapi Court Services today at 661-822-1994. Barb is simply the best. Call Tehachapi Court Services today at 661-822-1994.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm so thrilled I've got the owner of Scope 365 Fitness here with me today, Craig Jansen, Navy veteran. Craig, tell the audience out there why everybody in town needs to come up over here and join.
Well, Scope 365 is a 24-hour club, so we never close, unlike a lot of other clubs here in town. Additionally, our club is always super clean, and one of the things that you're going to find here is a different environment. We strive to give you a VIP experience here, so we want to get to know you, we want to know your story, we want to know about you and how we can help you succeed and meet all of your fitness goals.
Wonderful. Ladies and gentlemen, come on down to Scope 365 Fitness. You're located right here on Brim Hall. Tell us your other location.
We have another location up in Tehachapi, and then our third location here in town is also located over on Chester and Columbus in the Food Mac Shopping Center.
Thank you so much, Craig. You have a wonderful day.
You too. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you've heard the sirens that can go off in Israel when bombs, rockets, missiles are landing in that country. Today, that's what we've been hearing. In fact, I was hoping I could play something for you. This is what they sound like. If I can get it to play, looks like I'm not being very successful here. It's called, I have a red alert on my phone. It lets me know every time Israel's attacked. And so Anyway, this is incredible today that rockets have been fired into the city of Tel Aviv. And, oftentimes the Muslims, the Palestinians, Israel, just to give you a little bit of background, back in 2004, 2005, when Ariel Sharon was the Prime Minister of Israel, and because of the terrorist attacks just were wearing down the people of Israel, and Jewish families that were living in the Gaza Strip had really built it up. It was very, very nice. There were mosques, there were synagogues, there were nurseries, there were farms. It really was a lovely place. But the Muslims there kept terrorizing the Jewish families. And I think because former George W. Bush was about appeasement, and he kept having Condoleezza Rice, in his ear. It's all about appeasing the Muslims. If we just give them more land, they'll just live in peace. Let's just give them. They say they want more land. Let's give them more land. Let's tell the Jews, give up the Gaza Strip. Remember when Egypt attacked Israel along with other Arab states in was controlling Gaza at the time in 1967. But after Egypt attacked Israel, Egypt lost, as did the other Arab countries in 1967. It was called the Six-Day War. And when Egypt lost, she lost the Gaza Strip. She not only lost the Gaza Strip, Egypt lost the Sinai Peninsula, of which the Israelis were busy looking for oil and beginning to, I believe, drill for oil. When under a Democrat, Jimmy Carter, convinced Menachem Begin, another prime minister, to give up the Sinai Peninsula. So Israel let go of all that. And who's in the Sinai Peninsula today, ladies and gentlemen, where Moses and the hand of God wrote on the rock, the tablets of stone, the Ten Commandments? Who controls it now? ISIS, Al-Qaeda, terrorist groups. So that's what happens when Israel withdraws from land. Now we have terrorists in control of the Sinai Peninsula for the most part, and now in the Gaza Strip. After 2005, when I'm sure under the pressure of George W. Bush, from everything I've read and all the research I could gather, and Condoleezza Rice, who was the Secretary of State, the Jews basically packed everything up and left the Gaza area. The Gaza area was, you remember the biblical character, Samson and Delilah, remember that? It was Samson, the Jewish Samson, that because of the evil in the Gaza area, he was living in what we call the Gaza Strip today, living in an area there. He brought down the Philistines, brought it right down on his head, but, he asked God for one more chance to prove himself, and, they had blinded his eyes, but his hair had grown out, and I guess they didn't notice, so, he pulls down the whole thing upon himself, and if I remember the scriptures right, I think he killed several hundred in the process. The bottom line is Gaza is part of Israel's historic homeland. It always will be. And, Bush and Condoleezza Rice, they pressured Israel to get out. Ariel Sharon had every single Jewish man, woman, and child pack up. And now Hamas, the Islamic resistance movement, and ICE and Al-Qaeda and Hezbollah and other groups there have turned it into what is a camp for various terrorist groups who walk around the streets within the Gaza Strip fully armed and loaded. And the gangs, the cliques, the clans, the tribes, the Arab society is very much a tribal society, and they have their tribal loyalties and their clan loyalties and their loyalties to Islam. And most Christians, if there are any Christians there, God help them. Most of the Christians, from what I understand, have tried to get out or have died. I think there's maybe a handful left. The point is, it's a dangerous place to live. So, because the Jews are no longer there, it's a hotbed of terrorism. So these rocket attacks, did you find a siren? These rockets have now been fired into Tel Aviv. very cosmopolitan city. It's nighttime, of course. Well, now it's morning time, really. It's the next day. It's Friday. Israel's 10 hours ahead. And Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has convened a very urgent meeting with his senior military officials, including his military chief and top advisors, looking to and exploring how to respond to these attacks. This just came out on Israel's Channel 10 News. I think it's interesting. Last in southern Israel a few years ago, I noticed that a lot of the missiles had been made by Iran. The Iranian-backed Hezbollah, a terrorist group, refers to the Party of God-backed Hamas, the Islamic resistance movement. Iran has a strong presence in the Gaza Strip. They have a strong presence, a heavy footprint in Lebanon and in Syria. And this is a very dangerous turn of events. It says here that Israel will strike terrorist targets in the Gaza Strip. You don't need to get excited about, possibly having children killed or families killed. It's war. And there's always going to be civilian casualties. Israel does its very best. Israel historically always sends leaflets. They literally have their military make phone calls to what they might consider to be civilians that are living in the Gaza Strip to say you might want to move out of this particular vicinity because we're getting ready to bomb it. Israel only bombs vicinities where they know, based on their intelligence sources, that terrorists have a terrorist training area or their missile launchers there. I mean, Israel will only go after very specific sites in which they pinpoint those very specific targets that are known to have terrorist or weaponry and equipment or missiles or rockets right there. So just know that Israel does its very best to pinpoint important targets that are responsible for bombing Israel. And I hate to think the bombs are landing in a major cosmopolitan city like Tel Aviv. That's just incredible. But I'm sure Iran's hands and fingerprints are all over it. And it goes to Representative Ilhan Omar. By the way, her name, Ilhan Abdullah Omar. I thought it was interesting. I found something and I asked Barb Reynolds-Wallstrom to help me check on it. Apparently, Representative Omar was arrested in 2013 for something that sounds very silly. She was arrested for trespassing, but I'm thinking nobody gets arrested for trespassing. So she must have been deemed some sort of a criminal to be arrested for trespassing. I mean, have you ever gotten arrested for trespassing? Have you ever gotten arrested? No. Nobody gets arrested for trespassing. So I've asked her to look into that. Here's a picture of her. She's not wearing her hijab. You notice that? Can people see that? Mm-hmm. She's not wearing her hijab. What do you think that means, that when she walks the steps of Congress and the halls of Congress, she's got her hijab on? You think she's messaging the Muslim community? Of course she is. Because here she is. She doesn't have her hijab on at all. She's arrested and she was booked at the Hennepin County Jail. Apparently she's received tens of thousands of dollars from PAC donations from over 5 dozen PACs, 5 dozen, including CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations, David Brock, Media Matters, George Soros, Keith Ellison, Nancy Pelosi, Bill Maher. Bill Maher. Bill Maher. I knew I wasn't pronouncing that right. Bill Maher. Bill Maher donated money to her campaign? Bill Maher and more. Anyway, I want to find out Why she was arrested for trespassing, there's got to be a deeper story there. Anyway, when we get back, I want you to see, I mean, this is a woman that's rejoicing because the resolution that she got under Nancy Pelosi's leadership in the House to pass is a resolution that basically insulated her, protected her from censorship in the House for her anti-Semitism. And oh, by the way, next time some Democrat or Independent or Rhino Republican lies to you and says she didn't say anything anti-Semitic, you say everything she has said is anti-Semitic. You don't say Jews have dual loyalty and then walk out in front of the president and say, I was just criticizing Israel. I just don't like Israel's policies. Really? Well, you don't say to the American people in the world, well, the Jews, the Benjamins have bought off the Republican Party. You don't say that Jews and AIPAC has bought off Republican loyalty or support. You don't say that the Jews in Israel has hypnotized the world and you must pray that Allah awake the world and awake people here in the United States. And isn't it interesting that you never hear Representative Ilhan Omar from Somalia, a place where female genital mutilation, and we'll get into there a little bit later. Do you have those pictures ready to go? Well, he'll get them ready to go when we come back from break. I want you to see, I don't think that anybody, not even Fox News, bothered to show a rally. Did you hear anything about a rally that was being held by a group of women? They're called the Middle Eastern Women's Coalition. Did you hear about it out on the news? The Middle Eastern Women's Coalition had a rally calling for Omar's resignation. You haven't seen it, but you're about to see it. And I think it's pathetic that even Fox News is afraid to show it. And but stay tuned in. You'll see it after this break, and we've got so much more. We'll be right back. Thank you.
Trump has correctly stated that economic security is national security. And in the Tehachapi Mountains of Kern County resides a United States defense contractor, Anates Products. Here is the Silicon Valley of the aerospace industry, right here in East Kern. Anates Products is a forward-leaning manufacturer and distributor of hardware sold to major defense and aerospace companies. We're talking about Boeing, Lockheed Martin, United Technologies, Northrop Grumman, Raytheon General Electric, and on the list goes, as well as to every United States ally worldwide, including Israel, America's most important strategic ally in the Middle East. And for everything that flies, Anates Products is providing the parts. And with me today is the president of Anates Products, Scott Baker. Hi, Scott.
How you doing?
Scott, tell us why you believe this corner of Kern County is the hub of the aerospace industry.
Well, this portion of Southern California here out in the Antelope Valley, it contains, some of the most cutting-edge technology going on in aviation today. We have some of the UCAS programs with unmanned technologies going on. We have Edwards Air Force Base out here who's doing continual testing in their area. We have the Naval Weapons Station up there at China Lake doing some fantastic cutting-edge stuff, cruise missile technology, and those things are going on. We have Scale Composites locally doing a lot of composite technology, which is new. We have SpaceX, which is a private one, a private entity putting things into space now. This area is the growth center for aviation's future, and this is the area I think that as a nation we need to be concentrating some of our effort and taking this technology. And as we all know, with the space program from Apollo years ago, out of these technologies, we, the private sector, are going to reap some of the benefits of that.
Thank you, Scott. Ladies and gentlemen, Scott Baker, president of Anates Products. Anatase Products, located in the beautiful mountains of Tehachapi, California, in eastern Kern County, is home to some of the most innovative and specialized technologies in the world, including those at the U.S. Naval Air Warfare Center Weapons Division at China Lake, Edwards Air Force Base, as well as Stratolaunch, launching satellites capable of delivering multiple orbits in a single flight to space. And it is Anatase Products that has provided the manufactured devices, and the president, Scott Baker of Anatase Products, Marine Corps veteran, reactivated on 9/11 to monitor threats to the homeland, is carrying on a tradition of providing for the security of the United States by manufacturing every kind of fastener on anything that flies, as well as providing a full testing destructive laboratory. Contact Anatase Products, now in business for 30 years, at 661-822-6873. Located at 1314 Goodrich Drive in Tehachapi for your manufacturing and testing needs today.
So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Denise Gary Show. Okay, Representative Ilhan Omar from Somalia and Rashid Tlaib, quote unquote, a Palestinian. That means she's an Arab Muslim, and who called our president mother. You know, the F word. We're not going to say it on this show. I find it repugnant. I find the word repugnant. I don't want to ever hear it. People use it in my presence. And I think that it's absolutely shameful that these two women are standing with and among those who stand with Louis Farrakhan, who calls the Jewish people termites. And that goes back to Omar calling the president not human. You know, these kinds of racist, bigoted statements by Muslims that are made, especially to other people who are not Muslims, Jews, Christians, Hindus, Sikhs, Yazidis, other people of other faiths. What's so concerning about it is that it is an attempt. It is a deliberate attempt. They know what they're doing. They're trying to delegitimize these people as human beings, to make persecution against them easy for a population of people to digest, to be comfortable with. And it's a process. It's a process that started in Nazi Germany, the moment Hitler came to power, and even before Hitler came to power, so that by 1938, Nazi Germany is having Kristallnacht, and people are being arrested. The concentration camps are emerging, because there were those years of sort of desensitizing people to the whole aspect that, oh well, these people here and their families and their children, they're not really human beings. And they were characterized like Louis Farrakhan from the Nation of Islam, characterizing them as rats and termites. It's the very same thing from Nazi and Muslim propaganda. You know, when you think about it, think about the Muslim connection with Nazism. If you go back and you read history, read the unholy alliance that existed between Islamists, between the Third Reich and the Muslim leadership in Saudi Arabia and Iraq and Libya and the Muslim Arab states. Read about the fact that Hajj Amin al-Husseini, the Mufti, the Muslim leader of the Ummah, the Muslim international community, Hajj Amin al-Husseini, there's books that have been written by him. I can give you some excellent titles. This was a man that met with Adolf Hitler. This was the leader of the Muslims in the Middle East and the community at large. They wouldn't say nations, they'd say community of Muslims globally. And he's meeting with the Nazi hierarchy to make sure, as he said, that every Jewish man, woman, and child would be annihilated from the Middle East, because they just had to have total Muslim control. And the Nazis had to have National Socialism there in Germany, and they wanted, their identity as the superior Aryan race. So they were going to purify all of Europe and the world for this Aryan race of people, and the Muslims were going to purify the Middle East for their Muslim Arab people, and they were going to join forces, and indeed they did. And so it's not this, when you think about it, when you listen to this rally by this group of Middle Eastern women, again, the Middle Eastern Women's Coalition, I've got to get somebody from that group on my show. They call Omar and Rashida Tlaib out for who she is. Now, you're just going to hear 2 minutes of it, but if you wanted to hear more of this clip, it was called a resignation rally against Democratic Representative Ilhan Omar and Sharia law. Let's go to the clip so you can get a feel for it.
As you know, Middle Eastern Women's Coalition is actively fighting for women's rights, and we are trying to educate people and create awareness of Sharia law. Sharia law coming into this country, maybe you don't know, but this is truth. That's why we have to take an action before it's too late. I have experienced so many horrible crimes against humanity under the Sharia law. Women and children are suffering. Girls being forced into sexual slavery every single day. Forced into genital mutilation. Women are beaten, sometimes even stoned to death. I have witnessed a woman's face in Iran after men throw acid on her face because she didn't obey her husband. Women have no rights. Women are treated worse than animals. As a victim of Sharia law, I chose to remove my hijab. Then I received death threats from Middle East. That's why I'm fighting for innocent young girls. But ladies and gentlemen, women like Ilhan Omar would never mention this crime against humanity under the Sharia law. My personal views, she is misleading Americans and empowering radical ideology. She promotes Sharia law. Why is she not defending true victims? Because women are suffering in her native country, Somalia. She's not going to mention this. She never even mentions how women are treated in Somalia and Middle East. Where is she on International Women's Day? You're not going to see it. Under the Sharia law, women are sold, beaten, killed, and homosexuals are murdered simply because they are gay. Instead of their constant attacks against our president, I want to call out to Ilhan Omar to immediately resign, because she has gone too far with her hate.
Ladies and gentlemen, I know that's a lot for you to digest, but I want to focus on a couple things. First of all, female genital mutilation. As I've said, During the Obama presidency, he allowed many more Muslims into the United States, and that may be just fine to you. The thing that concerns me is the female genital mutilation aspect of it. The FBI and of course the federal there is a federal statute that makes it illegal. In fact, it's considered a crime against humanity to cut. Do you have those pictures up? To cut the genitals of a female child or an adult. But usually this is done here in the United States of America and around the globe, and particularly in places like Somalia and Egypt and other Middle Eastern countries. Female genital mutilation is a very brutal and painful thing, and it can affect a woman the rest of her entire life. It can lead to her death as a small child. Sometimes there's massive bleeding and they can't get it under control. Sometimes there's infections that result. They never walk. In some cases, they never walk the same again. Of course, childbirth is extremely painful. Sexual intercourse with their husbands is extremely painful. It just depends on how much cutting they did and who did the cutting and for how long, etc. There's other circumstances, but the bottom line is, here in the West, in our Judeo-Christian, from our Judeo-Christian perspective, we consider this to be a crime against humanity. And there are states here in the United States that are not adhering to federal statutory law. And here in the state of California, we need to work harder because there are cases of FGM that are happening in this state from Muslims that may be living in your neighborhood and you don't even know. That they've brought in a doctor into their home and that little girl is being held down and that's being performed right there in your neighborhood and in that individual's home. More needs to be done. If you believe or think that female genital mutilation is taking place in a family, and of course I know Jackie Sullivan, one of the city council members here in Bakersfield, she and the late Mayor Hall welcomed a particular Muslim sect, I believe it was the Dawoodis, into Bakersfield. They built a mosque. They're heavily into female genital mutilation. And I wonder how much of it's going on right here in Kern County in Bakersfield. So if you have any thought, any knowledge, any insight that this might be happening in a home, you need to let the FBI know. You need to let the police know. Even though it's a federal law, I have to say a liberal judge, a federal judge here in the United States said, well, that is another culture. It's rooted in another kind of religious belief, and so we have to respect it. No, we don't. No, we don't. Just because terrorist groups are crucifying, just because Muslims may stone a woman to death or beat her to death or beat female children to death or beat their animals or beat their children in that culture because it's okay in the Quran, doesn't mean that the United States of America has to tolerate. We don't have to tolerate crimes that actually violate our criminal justice code, whether they're laws on the local, state, or federal level. We have to respect our laws. And any federal or state or local judge that defers or says, oh, well, this is their custom, this is their tradition, this is their culture, it's okay, we need to stand up and say, not in America. This is not Egypt. This is not Somalia. This is not Morocco. This is not the Sudan. This is not Syria. This is not Iraq. This is not Saudi Arabia. We are a Judeo-Christian country, and we need to stand for that. And I hope you will. And I hope you'll report those cases out, because individuals involved need to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. And just because one federal judge decided to say, oh, well, we're just not even going to touch it, because it's somebody's culture or custom. We can't go around accepting people's cultures and customs when it comes to hurting other people. I can tolerate, I can enjoy the food and other traditions within Islam, perhaps, but I can't enjoy or appreciate a custom that I know hurts little girls. Okay? So I think wherever you're from, what other country you're from, you know, I'm an immigrant, my people were immigrants too. You know, I'm thinking Latvia and Estonia and Germany. I don't mind my immigrant relatives and their customs, as long as they don't hurt other people. I would hold that standard to myself and to the people from whence I descended from, and I would hold the same standard to anybody else from any other country with any other culture. Yes, we want to respect everyone and appreciate each other for our likenesses and also our differences, as long as they're not mutilating or hurting another human being. And I'm not talking about your feelings. I'm talking about some serious pain and hardship that can last a lifetime. That's what I'm talking about. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to go. Got to run to my next responsibility. I've got a class to teach. I've got to go. You know, we're trying to get that studio set up. If you would, and also other things. I mean, there's so much I want to do to get this, my compelling messages, I believe are compelling messages, out to people up and down the state of California. It really costs a lot of money to promote and advertise. And I appreciate my advertisers. Please tell my advertisers that you heard their ad on the Denise Gary Show. Craig Jansen, who's offering 0% enrollment fees and half off for 6 months. I mean, go to Sculpt 365 Fitness. Say, oh, thank you for advertising on the Denise Gary Show. We appreciate, you know, the information she's giving us, and we want to support. We want to support her conversations each and every day, and thank you for supporting her. Go to call Barb Reynolds-Wallstrom. You saw the number there during the commercial. I don't have the script with me. If you hand me the script, I can give her phone number out again real quick. The number 805-3306. Again, wherever you are, Edwards Air Force Base, China Lake, Roseman, wherever you are in Kern County, Lancaster, 661-805-3306. Give her a call. Go to Frugatti's Restaurant. Tell Ralph Frugaletti, the owner there, love the Denise Gary Show. Love it that you're advertising in her show, and I'm so glad to be here supporting you and your restaurant for supporting her. Scott Baker Annotates Products. He sells his parts to aerospace companies, SpaceX, Boeing, Raytheon, scores of groups. We want the president to come and meet Scott Baker and see the tremendous work that's being done for the aerospace industry here in Kern County, particularly East Kern County. And so let's get the president out here. Let's support Scott Baker. And again, if you're working for any of these companies, tell them you want to buy all of your parts, your machine parts from Scott Baker's Annotates Products. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for supporting this broadcast. Remember, you can make a contribution on PayPal on my website, anewmiddleeast.com. anewmiddleeast.com. Thank you so much. This is Denise, your friend and partner in truth and justice. Thank you for listening. Have a good evening. We'll be back with you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to The Denise Gary Show. Intelligent, Talk Media.